this is a warning, let me give you a warning before you watch this video. If you don't like boring details about Toyotas, specifically old Toyotas, Toyota FJ40s, then you don't want to watch this video. If you like details and you like to learn from other people's mistakes and you want to learn a little bit about voltage regulators and alternators, I can help you because that's what I've been dealing with for 2 days. Okay, so here's what happened. My son drove Rusty the other day, and he said, "It's idling rough, Dad. It won't stay running if I don't leave the choke pulled." So, because of Bell and learning about the idle solenoid in the carburetor, I learned that was my first thought, was maybe that idle solenoid has gone bad. And so I met him up around the corner where he was waiting for me, and we drove it home with the choke out. And then I got home and I thought, well, let me check first the engine fuse. So down here is the fuse box right there, and I don't know if you can see it on the video, but like the second one from the bottom one's a radio. This thing has no radio, so there's no fuse in there. But the second one up, when you take the little cover off, is the engine fuse, and it was blown. And so I thought, wonder if it's just a fuse. So found a 15 amp old barrel tube type fuse. I got a bunch of them because I always have old cars, and put it in there, cranked it up, and it blew the fuse instantly again. So I thought, maybe it's the voltage regulator. So I unplugged the voltage radiator, put another fuse in, cranked it up, and ran fine. So that made me think it was the voltage regulator. And I have this little cigarette lighter here that when you plug it in, it tells you, you can see there it says 12.9 volts. That's what the battery reads right now. And so when you're driving down the road and you speed up, the alternator kicks in, and when you turn on the lights, that changes. But what was not happening when I unplugged the voltage regulator, obviously, was it was not changing. It just stayed at 12.9, 12.9. And my little amp reader right here was not moving. It was just stuck right in the center. So it wasn't doing anything, which normally it would move. If you turn the lights on, it would move. And I'm not an electrical engineer, but just the short answer, I believe, is that volts are measuring, the power, the amount of power that the electricity has the capacity to do, and the amp is actually the flow, like what's flowing through it. So this is gonna move as you turn up and down, turn on and off the turn signals, or you turn on the lights, because it's flowing more electricity. I'm not exactly sure why they even put amp meters in cars back in the day. That just seems odd to me. Like, I guess it would be, if it stopped moving, you'd be aware that you're not charging or anything. But now they put voltmeters and tell you that it's at 12 volts or whatever. So that's what you really want to know, is if your volts are down, then your battery's dead or dying and not charging. So something's wrong with the charging system. So anyways, I unplugged the voltage regulator, the car idled fine, and it did not blow a fuse. And so ordered a 1978 FJ40 voltage regulator. Okay, Bell, the blue one, is a 77. The red one is a 78. The main difference in the 77 and 78s that I can tell is the wiring harness. The wiring harness on a 78 is a little different. It has a dedicated ground. So instead of using stuff like the voltage regulator just being bolted to the body to ground, it has a designated ground. So it goes from like a 3-wire to a 4-wire or a 5-wire. The reason I know this is, one, because the electrical connections on Rusty, the red one, are different than some of the electrical connectors on the blue one. I also know this because when I got ready to rebuild the rear wiring harness for the blue one, someone had just cut it, and when I got it, the 40 in boxes and pieces, I never found the rear harness. And so you can't order the old 3-prong early plugs for the 77. I had to order later ones, 78, 79, that have the dedicated ground, which is actually better. And so you can dedicate a ground straight to the frame or something like that. So anyways, when I rewired and rebuilt that rear harness, which maybe I'll make a video on that. If anybody wants one, let me know on what I did and how I did it. But I ordered the newer connectors, which are 5 prongs. I only used 4 because there's the 3 that originally came. The rear lights and all were for a 77. I didn't buy new lights and all that. I used the old lights, but instead of the ground going straight to the housing of the light, there's a dedicated ground in the wiring harness that I just ground to the frame. So that's actually supposed to be better. It's an upgrade. So anyways, I ordered the voltage regulator for the 78. And when I saw it online and it said it fit a 78 and I saw it had the 5-prong connector, I thought, yep, that's it. That's what it has. Note to self, double check, come out and look, do your homework. One of the things about Toyota that's really interesting is that it fits into their Toyota way of thinking that they use all the parts they have on the shelves before they make new ones. And so actually, if you had an earlier 78, it might have the older plugs, which I haven't even looked to see if it's got the newer plugs on the brake lights. Let me see if I can look really quick and see, looking under here. It actually does not. It does not, which is interesting. It's got the older 3-prong plugs in the rear. So this is an earlier 78. It came out of the factory in February. And so some of the plugs in here are the newer 5-prong. And by 5-prong, let me show you what I'm talking about. That is the newer plug, all right? The older plug looks more like this over here. This is the older 3-prong plug here. You can see it looks a little bit different. I'm not going to unplug it to show you, but it looks a little bit different. It's a little smaller. So anyways, I did not learn my lesson initially. I did not know. I need to look and see where what I had. So anyways, if I had come out and looked, I would have noticed that this voltage regulator has the older 3-prong plug, not the newer one. I have a picture. I'll put a picture of the newer voltage regulator, and that's the older one. They're almost identical, and I'm sure they probably operate the same. But as you can see, someone actually upgraded this one by putting a dedicated ground. They just cut the wire here instead of going into the wiring harness and grounding somewhere else. They just grounded it right here, which I'm not sure if that's an upgrade or not. At least you know it's grounded. You can see it right there. So I ordered the wrong one and got ready to put it on, plug it in, and noticed the plug was not right. Now I could have probably done some modifications and swapped out, repinned, which I'm gonna talk about in just a second what that means. I could have repinned it and fit it into the old style and probably dedicated the ground like it has, and probably could have made that one work. But I noticed that Napa had, even though Toyota said it's disconnected, Napa had one of the older style. And I knew that my 77 would definitely have the older style, which it does. The only difference is the regulator is not over here on the firewall. It's actually down here on the 77 underneath the brake booster. But I double checked on that. So I just ordered 2 of those. They're not super expensive. I think I paid $30 a piece for them. So $60 for 2, and the original OEM Toyota one that was for this later 78, I got on sale for $30. So anyways, I got good deals on them. Took the one back that didn't fit. So got the new ones. This is just the beginning of my struggles and challenges here. So I got the new ones, opened them up, and noticed that they did have a 3-prong connector. You can see that. Get it in the light. You can see 3 prongs there. But the 2 holes, the 2 top ones, are too close together. They were really close, and on the green ones, they were farther apart. So I pulled the plugs off the new ones and put the plugs off the old ones. So here's my old original one. You can see it has no plug on it anymore. And let me explain to you how to do that in case you're interested. Like I said, this is going to be some geeky Toyota stuff. So let me turn the camera around. All right, so to pin these is what it's called. As you can see, there's a little tiny tab on here right there, and that actually clicks in. When you push it into the inside of any of these plugs, there's a little tab in there that it clicks on. You'll actually feel it go click. And so the way to get that out, I used a pick like this, and you stick it down. You stick it down inside, and you basically bend that little tab right there. You bend that little tab in, and then what I do is so I stick that in there and leave it stuck in there. Then I take another screwdriver and I push on here. You don't want to pull down here because you can actually pull it out. So I take the screwdriver here and I kind of push while that pin is disengaged. Then when you pull it out, you got to pull that little tab back out because sometimes it bends in. And then you just remember where they were in the order, and I remembered that it was red, green, black. So you put it back in the new one, and if you bend these little tabs back out, you'll feel it when you push it in the new plug. It goes click and it stays in. So I plugged them in, put the new voltage regulator on, and then the way you test, okay, let me go back out here and tell you, turn my camera back around. Okay, so what you do is you test your battery. You get a multimeter, and you test your battery. You just positive, negative, set it up to check volts. My multimeter said it was at 12.9, which is what the inside little cigarette lighter thing said as well. You can use that. That actually helps if you're by yourself, because you're gonna have to rev it up to see if your voltage regulator is working. So with the car off, it read 12.9. Put the voltage regulator on, crank the car, it said like 13, just idling, which really is about where you want it to be. You don't want it to be much hotter than about 14 volts, or you can fry your battery. It'll cook it if it overcharges it. And so went inside, revved it up, had my dad come over, checked out here too with the voltmeter. But inside, when you're revving it up, it got up to like 15 and a half volts, which is really too much. You don't want the voltage regulator to allow that much volts, because like I said, you could cook your battery. That perplexed me because I thought the voltage regulator would stop that from happening. So here's what I thought. Let's check and see if the voltage regulator works on the blue 40. So I pulled the voltage regulator off over here, took it into the shop right behind here where my blue 40 is, plugged the voltage regulator in down here underneath to the wiring harness underneath the brake booster, and did the same test. It worked great. The battery was like at 12. When you cranked it up, it went to 13. When you revved it up, it went to about 14, which is exactly what you want. Turn on the lights, the amp meter moves. The other thing that let me know something was not quite right with the red one is the amp meter pegged up way past 30 amps and stayed there, which means too much electricity is flowing. Correct me if I'm wrong, my electrician friends down in the comments, but I knew it shouldn't be pegged over there, and it shouldn't go up. It actually went up to like 16 volts when I revved it up high. So I was like, something's not right. So since I had two voltage regulators, I pulled out the second one. This was the dilemma. The voltage regulator seemed to work fine on the blue one, or it's overcharging on the red one. Pulled out the second voltage regulator, repinned it, put on, since I had two older voltage regulators, I put the correct plug on it, wired it all up, put it in the red, same thing, put it in the blue, same thing. So I was like, I wonder if something's wrong with my alternator. So I checked my alternator. I put a voltmeter on the alternator. The way I check that is you ground somewhere, like on the motor, you check this positive voltage regulator. This positive plug right here, and it will tell you what the what's coming off of the alternator, and it should be high. It should be 15, 16, because it's giving a good charge, and then the regulator regulates how much is going to the rest of the car. Now, one note again, if you are interested in Toyota, just random stuff or car stuff, is newer alternators have a voltage regulator built in. So you don't have to have that external one mounted on the firewall. It's regulated inside the alternator, which makes more sense actually. And a lot of people upgrade to the newer alternators. I didn't want to do it on the red one because this one is like 90% all original. So I didn't want to mess with it. The blue one, I have a electronic distributor on it. At some point I may go ahead and upgrade to a one-wire alternator, but this one I'm trying to keep pretty much as much original as possible. So there was my dilemma. So I went into side, got on I Hate Mud, read everything I could read about voltage regulators, and basically what I learned is that sometimes you have to adjust the voltage regulator on the inside. You have to bend a little tab. I'll put a picture, but you got to bend a little tab to adjust it down. And so I was kind of hesitant to do that because I didn't want to. I know it's a delicate thing. I didn't want to mess it up, but I tried everything. I swapped out old regulators, new regulators. I was getting the same consistent that this one was just overcharging 15, 16 volts. And so I thought, well, I'll try it. So I pulled it apart. I bent the little tab down just a little bit, came out here, did the test again. And now when you revved it up, it was like 14 and a half, which I think is right where it needs to be. And so anyways, I didn't know I was going to get that far deep into actually adjusting the inside of the voltage regulator, bending that little tab. But now seems to be running great. And so if you need help on setting a voltage regulator, I'm going to put a link down below to the I Hate Mud thread where I'm going to document all this with a little bit more detail and some more pictures that'll show you how to do that. So if you're having a similar problem, it's overcharging, you've tried voltage regulators and you're still getting the same problem, I definitely recommend I Hate Mud. It has so much information on there. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this on my two threads, the one I have for Bell, the one I have for Rusty, and then I'm going to put it on a couple of the voltage regulator threads that I found as well. I found some similar stuff, but I'm going to try to make it really clear, make it really easy. So if someone gets in a similar situation, they can find those threads. And you also can email me, dirtdobbergarage@gmail.com. I'm glad to answer any questions. If there's anything I can do to help you as you're working on your 40 or you're having similar problems, just let me know. Thanks for watching.